You're listening to the Shoot Your Shot podcast. I'm Megan.
And I'm Jen, and we're two boss babes sharing our journey and inspiring you along the way.
I'm a wedding photographer and videographer, and Jen runs a mobile bar company. And today we are talking all about education.
I am so excited for this episode because when I first started my business, I actually hired a coach, and I'm really excited to kind of dive into that and talk more about it. But first we have to talk about that Megan and I randomly ran into each other 2 nights ago, was it? Yeah. 2 nights ago.
Yeah.
At a networking, it was an educational networking event.
Yeah. I had no idea.
No, we were literally together like a few days prior, and usually we talk about like what we're doing for the week, and we were just like so drained on busy season, and we didn't even like talk. We were just talking about like our own work events.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really fun, and we'll kind of talk about the education side to it. But I think just networking events in general are educating you, yourself, your business, and helping you grow, because nobody really likes to go to networking events. I actually love talking to people, but even I get nervous like walking into them because you're like, who do I talk to? I don't really know anyone. And even though I went with a friend and you went with a friend, it's still, you want to put yourself out there because you're trying to, showcase your business. So it's like you have to talk to people, even though, it's not the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, it can be fun. Like you do enjoy it when you're there, but there was like a certain point in the night where I was just drained from introducing myself. I was like, oh, I'm like ready to go home.
Yep.
And that's tough for me. It like takes a lot out of me, but it's really important. Like I met somebody in person who I've been talking with on TikTok like forever. She and I have been like commenting on each other's posts all the time, and we bumped into each other. She was like, Megan, oh my God, hi. I was like, and then we just found out that we live like that. She's like in the next town over. Like I had no clue. So we're going to go get coffee. So it's like, it's a really valuable experience to do.
That's awesome.
Events,
I love that. Okay, so we'll kind of kick it off with, I'll start with how I started my journey in education for my business.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, Pinterest was how I got the idea of this business, and how I really like knew what I wanted to do and saw the vision of what the Vintage Horse was going to be. So I basically educated myself on how to build it, how to start a business, I guess, in general. I had no clue what I was doing with anything. I had never started a business, never ran a business. So I think that alone, you have to educate yourself on your future goals, what you see this business coming to, and, all your ideas and things like that.
Yeah.
But then I guess it was like a few weeks into me like launching my business. I had already started my Instagram. I had no events yet. And this woman reached out to me. She was a coach for mobile bar businesses, not specific to like an actual horse trailer, just mobile bars in general. So like, companies that just do bartending, I guess you could say. And she sent me a message. She was like, congratulations on your new business. If you ever need help, I'm a mobile bar coach, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what is this? Like a mobile bar coach? Like I had never heard of anything. I had never even heard of a coach for business in general. I just thought you kind of were on your own. And when she messaged me, I was like, I'd love more information. And it was great because she was actually offering a crazy discount. It was like 50% off. I don't know if she was just starting her coaching side or what it was, but I got a really good deal. But I said to her, so it was a 6-week course. And I said to her, I don't want to do the full 6 weeks right now because I haven't even started my actual business yet. And she was like, not a problem. Why don't we do like 2 weeks, kind of like, get the questions that you have right now. And then we'll do the rest of the 4 weeks like later on. And I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. So she was great about that. And we did a payment plan, and it was the first like investment that I put into my business. And it really was not a lot. I think it was $600. Normally her, course was a lot more. And it was the best money that I've spent. I was able to ask someone questions who had already done it. I was able to kind of like, just like get that stress off my chest of like, is this going to be a thing? Can I even do this? And like, she was in my corner saying, it's been done before. You can do this. Yeah. And it was like almost that satisfaction of just hearing it from somebody else.
Yeah.
So that was really, really rewarding. I don't think she taught me about HoneyBook. I would have never known about HoneyBook before her. And I can't even imagine living my business
Yeah.
without it.
Right.
So, that was my experience on hiring a coach.
Yeah.
I know you've never had one, right?
No, I wanted to though. A lot of photographers offer mentorships where you can shadow them on engagement sessions or family shoots or whatever, and then also do like a phone call or a coffee date with you where you get to do those questions that you did as well. And I wanted to, and I like was researching different people, and I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And then it was one of those things that I just never got around to. And then by the time I was actually like, I had the money for it and I was ready for it and I had the time for it, because I was working a full-time job too. By that point, I felt like I had already kind of figured it out. And like, you're always learning and you're always going to have questions. But by that point, I had already made some internet friends. I had already done a lot of research and figured things out on my own because of social media. So all of those things like Honeybook and figuring out that I like figured out how to do for free, just being like chronically online.
No,
but
yeah,
there's a lot of free tools out there, just like what we're doing today, like the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
There is great money spent investing in your business and seeking out a mentor and working one-on-one with somebody. That is so valuable. And there are I probably would have benefited from that more than if I had just, what I had done, which was for free, just like scrolling around and figuring things out. So I kind of wish that I had. But at the same time, if you don't have the money for it, you do not have to. But it will give you a big leg up.
100%. And I think, I'm a firm believer that if you put money into your business, you're going to see the success of it come later. But there are so many free tools. And I think it's so important to just continue, every week, either listening to an educational podcast relating to your business, or right now I'm on like I wouldn't say manifestation journey, but I'm doing a lot of like self-development podcasts because I truly think that is aligning with where I'm at in my business right now. And I really think like I do one of the podcasts I listen to, it's called like motivational speeches. And it's just like a collab of like very, very, I don't know, elite like public speakers, and they're just like yelling in your ear like, you can do this, you got this. And I know that's totally not your podcast type, but that's literally what I feed off of.
Yeah.
Like if I don't listen to one a day, I'm like, oh God, I didn't listen to like my talk kind of thing. But that's what, educates me. It's like them telling me that you can do this. It's going to be hard, but you got this. And like, that's what I need. And I feel like people just need to find like their thing, and, whether it's a motivational podcast like that, or whether it's someone saying, this is what I did in my business, or, a podcast like ours, like just sharing our stories and explaining like what we do day to day. But I think you need to find what works best for you and your business in order to like keep you going every day.
Yeah. My version of that, and I don't do it like that much anymore, but when I was first starting my business and I was just trying to like absorb as much as I could, I'm very resourceful. So I feel like you can do a lot for free or for cheap, like going to the thrift store and just like everyday things like that. But so for me, it was like YouTube. I learned everything I could about photography from YouTube, my settings. I learned a lot about wedding videography, and I would like look up on YouTube just like wedding videographers and watching their videos and like talk, like, I don't know, just like anything about the wedding industry. I was like all over YouTube for. And there was this one photographer, Peter McKinnon, where I learned so much from him so quickly, because I just sat down and just around the house while I was doing laundry, while I was doing the dishes, while I was just hanging out, while I was like scrolling on Instagram, watching other photographers and seeing their work. He was on in the background 24/7, and he was talking about his favorite lenses and what you need to have in your backpack and his client experience and how like 10 different ways to make money with photography, just like all of these different things. I just was absorbing as much as I possibly could. And so I think that's like just a mindset thing for me, which for you in the podcast that you listen to, all of the speakers, it's a mindset shift. Like it gets you ready for the day and ready for your business and ready to go. And yeah, maybe I should do that more. Like
you should, yeah.
It's inspiring to see other people do what you do. It's kind of a push and kick in the pants to be like, yeah, I could do that.
And I think it's like that reminder that you need, because we keep saying we're in busy season right now. This is like our hardest time to keep going. Mm-hmm. So I feel like if you have that in the back of your head, but I love that you said like you were listening to it while you were doing the dishes or cleaning
Always,
or whatever.
yeah.
Because I feel like so many people I talk to, I'm like, oh, do you listen to podcasts? They're like, no, I don't have the time. I'm like, well, are you ever in a car?
Yeah.
Like even sometimes it's so funny when I'm, my kids are in school now, but when they're with me and there's sometimes where like we're driving, to my grandparents' house or something, and that's like my alone time in a way. I put a podcast on and I tell my kids I'm doing work in the car. Like I just say it. And, sometimes I feel guilty because I'm like, oh, this should be like our time to chat and things like that. But we have other times that we chat.
Probably good for them too to just hear that like reassurance from other people. You got this. You got like.
Oh no,
I'm sure that's
I put
really
my headphones
good.
on.
Oh no.
They don't need to hear like my screaming in the ear. No, but you know what? It's a good time for them. They're bonding with each other.
Yeah.
So I look at it in different ways. So. I think you can always find time for something. Like I hate the excuse. And I was one of those people who made that excuse like, oh, I don't have time to do this. But you prioritize your time and you prioritize the things that you want to do. And it's so true. Like I have no clue how I run a business with 2 kids and a husband and keep our house somewhat clean and do laundry. Like I have no clue how I do it all, but you figure it out.
Yeah.
You figure it out. So I think everyone needs to also listen to our podcast, but find a really good podcast or YouTube or I know you're bigger on the YouTube side, but remember I asked you something about HoneyBook and you're like, oh, I think I saw it on YouTube.
I'm always on YouTube because it's such a visual thing and I learn visually. I learn by doing and by practicing and like actually seeing things. And so that's why podcasts aren't as huge for me, is because things don't soak in as much for me if I'm just listening to it. I like to like see people's faces and talk and what they're actually showing. So when I'd be watching Peter McKinnon's videos and he'd be like, oh, the 35 millimeter gives you this effect versus an 85 millimeter, but that means nothing to me if I'm just listening to it. I have to see the examples he's showing on the screen of like a side-by-side image. So with photography, that's why I was always leaning into YouTube, and same with videography because it's such a visual thing. I have to like see it to understand what's going on. And so that's kind of leans into shadowing other people, which is on our list of topics. So mentorships, I mentioned that a lot of photographers will do like a ride along where like you can come with them to an engagement session or whatever. There's also styled shoots, content days that we both talk about all the time, which is how we met. And that was the first investment that I made. So instead of a mentorship like you did, that content day was my first investment in my business. I think it was like a $200 ticket or something for me to come. And that was the first time I had ever photographed people. Like I'd only ever photographed my dog, nature outside. I had done self-portraits like one time, which was really hard, but just to understand like editing skin tones and stuff, I thought it was important to like try. But I learned so much that day. It wasn't a workshop. That's totally different. It wasn't, focused on speakers or educating people. It was just a way for you to boost your portfolio. But for me, I did a mindset shift, and instead of just looking at oh, this will be good for, like me and my work. I didn't have any work yet. So I learned from those other people. And even if they weren't like experts or, like, I don't even know a ton of their personal lives. There were like 10 other photographers there, I think. Right. And they were all in totally different stages, but I learned something from every single person there just because I watched people like a hawk and I was like over their shoulder, like, what are they doing? Because that's how I learn, is from watching and by doing. And so I would watch people pose and watch people fiddle with their settings. And I would say, oh, okay, I can do that. And then that's how it happened.
I have to go into like a side tangent. So I always watch bars at like events that I go to now. And I'm like, always, I feel so bad saying this, but I'm always judging them. I'm like, oh, you did that wrong, or you're too slow, or like I'm being so nitpicky now just because like I know like what you're supposed to do and I know what it takes and I know, and I'm sure like if you see a photographer at, something, you're looking at them too. And it's just like, it's like a car accident. You can't help but do it. But I also like appreciate, like I used to work in banquets. Like I appreciate the banquet staff and how hard they work because I know how hard that job is. And I think that's so important. Like, coming from the bottom, like I literally was serving your plate at a banquet and now I have a company that I see, I still see the staff, and anyway, that's totally a rant, but
true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to talk about like courses really quick because I know this is like a huge education, and there's so like, if you are not following, like, okay, another tangent. Let me slow down. Cause I'm so passionate about this, but if you're on social media and you're not following people that motivate you, you need to do that. Like that is the number one thing that you should be doing. Get the people who you don't want to see. You know, if your competition is something that you don't want to see on your social media, unfollow them. Or if you don't want to unfollow them, you can like silence their pages so that you know, the algorithm is not showing you them over and over. I know a lot of people that's like something really hard for them to see because it's like, oh, they got an extra gig or whatever it may be. So start following people that motivate you. You know, if it's someone who is in your field, but they're across the country, they're not your competition.
True.
Go follow them because then you can start getting ideas and inspiration, and they don't even know that, you know, they're technically training you because you're getting ideas from them.
Yep.
You know, that's a huge thing. Like I try to follow at like every mobile bar I can possibly find. You know, whether they're just starting, whether they're seasoned, whether they've been doing this for a while, because you never know when something's going to spark and I'm gonna be like, oh, that's really cool. I want to add that to my business.
Right. Or vice versa. They might see the same for you, and that'll, you know, boost your outreach.
Yep. And then just like, you know, and then all of these people are starting to do their own thing, like courses or coaching or trainings. You know, I've jumped on a bunch of trainings for other, not specific to mobile bar industry, but just business in general. You know, whether it's someone doing a social media course or some type of education, you know, I try to do all those, whether they're free or not. I think I've only paid for a few, which you don't have to pay. There's so many free opportunities in the world right now. But courses are a really big thing, and, you know, they're very reasonable. And I think if you can educate yourself at least once a month, it's going to help benefit you in the future.
Yeah. To like shave off time like once a month and be like, this is what we're doing right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know it's hard during quote unquote busy season, but everything's online. Like you can do it at your own leisure. A lot of people do, like I'm part of, there's a local, like, it's called Women in Business, and they do different like Zoom trainings like once a month, or I think like bi-weekly or something. And if something sparks my attention, they're free. Like you can just hop on at any time. You have to do it like during the time frame. But it's a free course where you can get knowledge in an industry that, you know, you like. One is bookkeeping. We all know how my bookkeeping is the worst. But there's one coming up and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get on that because maybe something will inspire me to be like, get your shit together, Jen. But I just think courses are very, very important. And I'm also doing my first retreat next year, which is, it's by a manifestation coach, but she's specifically doing this one for business owners, which I'm really excited about because I feel like I'm getting both. So, but it was over $1,000. And I'm actually going, it's in Connecticut, but I'm staying with like 8 other women that I've never met. But I'm really excited about investing back into myself because I think it's so important. And it's just something that's kind of been on my heart for a while. And I was bummed because her next retreat is in Hawaii. And I'm like, ooh, not going to make that one. But then she started this and I was like, you know what? This is meant to be. Yeah. You know, she's never done anything this local. And I'm like, sold. And it's about business. And I feel like that's where you have to go. You have to go with where your heart tells you, because I had been wanting to go to her course for a while and maybe the Hawaii one wasn't for me, but this one is specific to business, which is what I'm in, and also the manifestation side of it. So I'm really excited.
That's cool. Yeah. I've never heard of them.
Yeah. That's cool. I'll share it with you. She's great.
Yeah.
But then like, let's go back to shattering other people because I feel like that's hard in my industry. But I love that that's something that's huge for photographers.
Yeah. You know, it's so huge because, well, every photographer is different and there's no right or wrong way to do, like, you can do anything your own way, pretty much. But if you're just starting and you have no idea where to even go from there, it would be really valuable to be like one-on-one with somebody and like see how they operate instead of just like seeing their posts on Instagram. Like, you don't really know what settings they use or where they were, and there's a lot of gatekeeping with photography too, unfortunately.
I think that's every business.
Yeah, maybe I just feel like it's especially photographers because I am one, but I don't know. I feel like we're leaving that a little bit, but there's like a lot of gatekeeping with like, oh, where is this location? A lot of people are like, I'm not telling you.
Oh, 100%.
But shadowing other people can be huge, and it doesn't have to be a paid thing either. Like what I mentioned with the mentorships, shadowing them, sure, you can pay them to shadow and be one-on-one with somebody and like be able to take your time and work with a model couple maybe, but you could also second shoot for other people, and that scenario could be free or they could pay you. So with weddings, there's a lot of weddings where you feel like you need to have two photographers just because the wedding is so many people, or the ceremony space is like too hard to move around, and there could be a lot of scenarios for a reason why to like need to have a second shooter. But there are opportunities for beginners. You know, the first wedding that I ever did, the lead photographer, it was her first wedding too, and so we both kind of experienced it together, and now we're like best friends. And that was like 2 years ago. I just went to her baby shower. And she's amazing, but like you don't have to have a crazy amount of experience to be able to move forward. You know, it sounds scary to be like, oh, I'm looking for second shooting opportunities. Like, let me know if anybody's free. I have zero experience. A lot of people would not go for that, but you have to find the right people. So I put something out actually on Honeybook. There's like a job posting part of Honeybook, and I saw people posting jobs. Oh, I need a second shooter in this area. And I would comment and be like, hey, I'm available. I've never done a wedding before, but here's a styled shoot portfolio from that content day that I went to. And my friend saw my comment in there and she said, oh, phew, she would be perfect because I've never done a wedding either.
Wait,
and that's how it started.
You got your first one through Honeybook?
Yeah, that's how we met.
Stop.
Yeah, that's how we met.
I love Honeybook even more now.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't know about that part either. No. So education, now you know, and you can go and find more jobs through there. Honeybook, I think, is targeted more towards photographers. I mean, it's a client management system, so it's for any small business. But I mean, maybe it's more of a recent thing, but they now do like the mini session thing, and they have like templates for photography contracts. So I feel like it is more targeted for photographers. So I don't know if the job posting is just like a photographer thing.
No, because they have event planners and things too. I don't think it's for that because they have an event contract too. So I think it's probably just like what you search. Maybe, I don't know. I have no clue.
Or maybe when you sign up for it, you like say what kind of business you are. So maybe that's why mine looks like it's for a photographer because
mine was event based. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yep. We might have filled out like a questionnaire or something at the beginning. I don't remember.
Yeah. No, but love Honeybook.
But shadowing other people. You know, it doesn't have to be a thing that costs money either. You can make money second shooting and shadowing other people, but that's really just a photography thing.
And I think back to like we talk about content days all the time, but that's for any business. Like you are getting your name out there, you are promoting yourself, but you're also getting, all the pictures from the photographers, but you're also putting yourself out there and networking with other businesses. And I feel like that is the best form of educating yourself because you're seeing how other people are live. It's basically like a mock event at the end of the day without the full stress of like having a client and, having a real wedding. But I think that if you are a business owner and you have not done a content day, like put it on your list because there's just so many reasons that it's amazing. But if anything, it's just like that's a huge part of education because you're doing your best work and then people are seeing it. And then you're educating yourself because you're like, okay, this worked, this didn't work. Like that was my first.
Yeah.
I think we had like one event before that big content day. And even just like setting up the bar for that day, I was like, oh, you know what? This actually doesn't work here. I'm going to do a different setup. And I like changed so much that day. It's
a great way to practice without any of the pressure of performing for a client 100%. And like meeting people's standards because you can take your time. It's a totally mock wedding. Like the couple, they might be a real couple, but they're models. They're there for the purpose of being there. So there's no like pressure with a timeline or like anything crazy like that. You just you get to practice. It's practice.
No, it's amazing. Okay, so we're going to shift a little bit into speaking because I recently have gone to 2 speaking events, and one was a huge one in New York City.
Ooh.
It had Alex Rodriguez was one of the speakers there. Like it had the tickets were pretty inexpensive. I think it was like, I paid $99 because I got like an extra, but there's like some that were like $30.
Cool.
But it was amazing. And I actually went with randomly 2 other mobile bars that I had never met. And then one of my other good friends. And it was like the best educational, I guess it was a conference
Yeah.
that I had gone to, my first like ever big one like that. I think there was like over 2,000 people like
Wow.
in the audience. And I think those are things like I walked out of that, like I've been wanting to do public speaking for a while, but I walked out of that and I was like, okay, sold. Like this is what I want to do in my future. Like I see it and this is like my goal. But I probably would have not had that extra push if I didn't go to that
Right.
event. And prior to that, I went to I guess we'll call it a women in business conference. It's called She Who Wins. The woman that runs it was a lawyer and then now started her own business. She just wrote a book too, actually. And after going to that conference, I was like, I want to do public speaking. Like, I love this.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I probably would have never thought that if I didn't go to these two conferences. But I think it's getting yourself in a room with other like-minded people.
Yeah.
And really, like, I'm sure there's so many photography conferences that are out there. And I never thought I wanted to go to them because I was just like, I don't have the time or, whatever.
Yeah.
But at the two that I walked out and I was like, I can't wait for my next one.
That's exciting.
And I think that like there's so much education there that you could walk away with that you could put into so many aspects of your life.
Yeah.
And it's just almost like feeling relatable to other people because we don't have coworkers. Like we talk
Right.
about this all the time. We're doing this on our own. We're just talking to the people like in our network, but just, whether it's on Instagram or in the direct messages, but actually being in a room with other people who run a business and who are either thinking about starting one or who have been doing this for years, you get the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
And then a lot of these conferences have like mini breakout sessions. Like the one that I went to,
Mm-hmm.
you could choose what session you wanted to go to, like what spoke to you. And I randomly bumped in the line in the bathroom, this woman, and I introduced myself because she was just standing next to me. And she ended up being one of the speakers, which I didn't realize because I actually got invited to this and like didn't even do my homework on it. But she was amazing. And she's actually a motivational speaking coach. So now I like,
That's funny.
yeah. So I'm like in the talks of possibly joining her, coaching sessions. So it's just like, you never know who you're going to bump into.
Yeah.
You never know who you're going to introduce yourself to in the line in the bathroom.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason, but you have to push yourself to get in the room.
Yeah. And taking one little tidbit of information that somebody gives you can change so many things. Like the networking event that we went to that we mentioned earlier, it was by Sarah Brehant and it was at Smith Farm Gardens. It was really nice. She just started, I think it's going to be, what did she say, an annual or
I think
twice? Quarterly event, New England Event Pros is what it's called, NEEP. And they're going to have different speakers. And the speaker this time was all about SEO.
Mm-hmm.
She's something savvy, digitally savvy, something like that.
I'm totally drawing a blank too.
I'm blanking too. I don't remember what her handle is, but we'll tag her in the description below. But it's something savvy, and she does website building, SEO. She's like an expert on like digital marketing and getting your event business out there because she handles all like wedding industry people. So bakers for wedding cakes, wedding gowns, photographers, like anybody in the event space, she like helps succeed. Did you find it?
Yeah, Socially Savvy Studio.
Socially Savvy Studios.
And
she was great.
Was awesome. And it's like one of the comments that she made was saving your pictures as something like, for example, for me, I would save my picture like on my desktop as Connecticut Mobile Bar, because when I bring that to my website, the back end of it, people are seeing that I have Connecticut Mobile Bar in my picture. And I would never even think of something like that.
Yeah, I didn't think about that either.
No.
Yesterday, I went through my whole website and like
you
indexed every photo that was in there.
So good.
But what she was saying is that that's like an SEO, not trick, but something that like it's a missed opportunity if not. And all of my pictures were just image 1, 2, 3, 4. It was like totally random, but that is a piece of information that your website will take to have Google push out more. So the more times your website says wedding photographer, wedding photographers, destination wedding, like have it be as like specific to like rustic Connecticut wedding photographer. I was doing like Western style wedding photographers in Connecticut. Like I was making it so dramatically specific because if your website has those specific words, and somebody's searching for that near you, your website is more likely to come to the top. And the more times it says that, it's going to come to the top. And so I went through like all of my pictures, and like the picture on my About Me, I made that Meghan and Imagery LLC. Like I changed things to like make it different. But still, like even what was in the pictures, like there was one wedding I did at a brewery in Derby, and it was very boho themed. Her dress was like very floral and like floor length with sleeves, and everything was like very fun and bright and like bubbly and boho. And so I changed like the name for one picture to Bad Sons Brewery Wedding, Connecticut. I made another one, Boho Wedding Styles, Connecticut, like whatever. I made another, like, just even though there were two pictures that were like almost identical, I made them two totally different names that still applied, because you never know what people are going to be searching for.
Oh, totally. And first of all, I love that you went back home and did
oh my
your
God,
homework.
of course.
Like, I'm not surprised by any means. I haven't even thought to do that yet. So you're my motivation. But no, I walked away there with so many, like, in corporate, we used to call them aha moments.
Yes.
And I walked away with so many aha moments that I was just like, literally like, ah.
Yeah,
Like,
and it was quick too. I mean, it
Yeah.
was primarily a networking event, but she spoke for probably like 20 minutes,
Yeah.
15 minutes, if that. Like, it wasn't very long, and she did a quick Q&A at the end. But like those just like quick like bullet points that she gave, like she offers mentorships too, and like she can work with you to build your SEO and your website for you. But just hearing her speaking, like I feel like I'm able to do a lot of things myself. But like just those like bullet point list totally changed the game for me. I was like, you're so right. Why didn't I think of that? Why haven't I been doing that?
But that's the whole point of educating yourself. Like, we can't be experts in every single field, and we don't know it all, and we're never going to know it all. But if we can have someone who, like, she's an expert in that specific field, that's what she does. Like, if someone were to ask me questions about that, I would really have no idea, because I'm not an expert in that field, nor are you. But if someone was asking something about photography, or me as a bar, like, I would know more things. So I feel like that's why it's so important to educate yourself in areas that you don't know the best things, you know?
Yeah.
And for me, like, a website is so important. And it was like little things, like she was saying, saving your picture without an underscore.
Yeah.
Like, I would never even think of that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure
apparently Google can't read the underscores. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Like, I'll save some of my pictures with like a period at the end, or in the, whatever, because it'll have like the same name, but it'll have like period, or, whatever. But it's like such a waste of like that. Anyway. Yeah. We're going into rant, but it's so true. Like, educate yourself, go to events where, even if you think the topic isn't like fully for you, but you feel like, I'm a firm believer, you feel that calling. Like, I felt called to go to this event, and I loved it. I had a blast. I got out of my own comfort zone, because it was people that I had never really met before. I ran into you and Jess randomly. We didn't even know we were going to be there. But I'm a firm believer that you need to get yourself in the room. And, whether it's, what was the ticket, like $35 or 40?
It was like I think it was like 50 or like 40 something, and there was dinner and drinks included too. It was great.
Full dinner. Yeah. So it was awesome. So it was definitely worth getting yourself into, opportunities.
And take a chance too. Like, Jess invited me, but I had seen, or maybe I hadn't seen it yet. I don't remember. But I was like, I don't really want to go. Like, SEO, I was like, it's fine. I don't really want to go. And then she was like, let's go. Like, I'm going to get 2 tickets right now. And I was like, okay, if you want to go, I'll go. And then we like sat down, and I was like, I don't really want to like listen to this. And then it turned out like it was great. So like, take a chance, even if it's something that you're not interested in. If you're not interested in it, it is probably something that you need to work on.
Yes.
Because
I love that.
I was like, oh, SEO, I could care less. Like, I don't want to be here. And then turns out I didn't know anything that she said. Well, I knew some things that she said, but like, she was like, oh, you all know this, but did you know this? And I was like, oh, you're right. Yeah. So if there's something that you're not interested in, and you kind of like put on the back burner, and you're like, oh, I'll figure that out later, that you need to, push higher. If you're not interested in it, you probably haven't been doing it at all. And so you should push it ahead.
I love that exact phrase. Like, if you're not interested in it, then it's probably lacking in your business. Yeah. 100%. Oh, I love that.
You got to focus on it. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And then we kind of want to talk about like the free education part of it too, because, a lot of things are expensive these days. Not saying it's not worth it, because it is worth every penny, but you have to also, like, save your money, run your business, and, not go broke.
Or if you're just getting started, you don't have any
Yeah.
cash flow yet.
Yep.
Sometimes it really is like an investment.
Yeah,
And
totally.
sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
Can't swing
But
that.
Facebook groups are a huge asset to free opportunities.
Yeah.
Specific to me, we have a mobile bar group. The company is called Mobile Bev Pros. And she actually started her business because she ran a mobile bar, very successful. She was at, I think, Nashville. And she sold her business to just focus on coaching for mobile bars. That's all she does. She's very, very successful. She's really the only one that really does it to her level. But she has a free Facebook group where you can go in and you can ask questions, but you can also search topics that you want to know about. So, in Facebook, if you go to like the little magnifying glass in a certain like page, you could say like, I'm going to use like, what am I going to use? What's always talked about? Pricing. Let's just call it pricing. You can put in like pricing for mobile bars in her like Facebook group, and you'll get all the comments of people talking about pricing. So it's like such an educational tool. If you don't feel comfortable enough putting a post out, you could do your own homework and just like watch what everyone else is talking about.
Oh, that was me.
Yeah.
That was me. There's a really great photographer that focuses a lot on free education. She does mentorships too and like phone calls one-on-one, but she posts a lot of free education. And she was one of the first people that I follow. Her name's Cassidy Lynn, and she has a Facebook group that has like a jillion members, like so many members. And it's same thing. When I was first getting started, I didn't have any clients yet, but I still joined all of the groups and learned from their horror stories and their experiences. Like I would see stories that people would post, be like, SOS, what do I do? Like this client, I was at this wedding and this client's like uncle was like doing this to me and I didn't feel safe, and like, but it's not in my contract that I can leave, and I was supposed to stay until like 10 o'clock at night, but like what do I do? And so like all of these horror stories of like important things to have in your contract. And even though I didn't even have any clients yet, I was like, oh my God, I need to work on my contract. And I was like figuring out all of these things that I should be putting in there. Probably should. That's on my list of things where I'm like, oh, I don't really care. I don't really want to do that.
Updating your contract.
I probably should update my contract like today, but just so many free opportunities to learn from other people's experiences in Facebook groups, and from just making friends too. Like I've made a lot of friends from Facebook, kind of irrelevant, but like you learn from friends in person and online. So all of the friends that, you and I are friends, and sometimes I reach out to you, you reach out to me. Oh, how do I do this? I need help, blah, blah, blah. Like having people in your corner that will support you and are going through similar experiences than you, but maybe have done something just before you, or like vice versa, whatever. Like there are things that you know how to do that maybe I don't know how to do. And so I'd be like, oh, Jen, I need to reach out to Jen. So it could be somebody in your corner, a friend, or it could be a Facebook group where you can post anything for free in any of those kinds of Facebook groups. I'm in a bunch for photography. There's one just on contracts. It's called the Law Tog. And people just talk about their contracts in there and like legal issues. I have one, Cassidy Lynn, that's like anything. They mostly talk about editing. There's one that's like Wanderlust photographers, like whatever. And that one's kind of a mix, but that's like nationwide and like different countries too. So if you're like, oh, I need to find this, I don't know how to learn this, and I'm looking in this specific area, go to Facebook, because there's probably one for your specific state or your general area. There could be like a Midwest or whatever. So I would recommend Facebook groups for free. There you go.
There's literally a Facebook group for everything. And we always talk about it's a great way to promote your business too, in different groups, but not in these types of groups. Yeah. But back to your contract, we actually, so I told you I started a Connecticut mobile bar like Instagram group. Also an amazing educational tool for all of us, because we bounce ideas off each other. We recommend each other. It's amazing. But I went out of my comfort zone reaching out. Well, I really didn't, because you know me, I talk to anyone. Yeah. But I'm like, hey, I'm going to start a Facebook.
But it still looks kind of scary. Yeah.
It's my direct competition. So anyway, we just had something come up where one of the girls, she has her liquor license, so she's able to provide the alcohol too.
Oh, cool.
So the event was the client gave her a number of 100 people, and she always brings like extra just in case, you never know. And she saw on the seating chart it was 125 people. Now that doesn't seem like a lot, but she had a champagne toast for 100 people. So she only had, she ended up having like 110 glasses, but she had to go home, get more glasses. And while she was home, she had to go get more supplies because she didn't, luckily the event was close to her. And they ended up
25 people if they all have 2 or 3 drinks. That's
for
like
5 hours.
Yeah.
So it's not like a small number. So she, was feeding off of the conversation and, wanted our opinions. And she's like, do I, the event's done. It was a wedding. She's like, do I charge them? And we were all going back and forth. And in my contract, it states that if I have to go get more supplies, your supplies are at cost. And then there's a travel fee. It's like $2 a mile, which doesn't seem like a lot, but there's something in my contract that says if you go over your amount of, whatever, but she didn't have that in her contract. So it was a learning lesson for the whole group. We bounce ideas off each other. I learned too, like, should we charge? Should we not charge? Like, yeah, you should charge, but it's that awkward conversation because the event's already over. And so I said to her, I was like, I probably would have had the conversation that night with the bride and been like, listen, just want to pull you aside for 1 second. I'm not going to bother you right now, but I just want you to know we had to go get more supplies. I'm going to send you, just the balance, like very professional, but at least the bride would have known, hey, an invoice is coming. Now the poor girl, the mobile bar, feels so guilty that she can't send this. And it's like $1,000. Like it's not a small fee.
Yeah.
So, but it's hard. But now, something like that. And then there's other things that we bounce ideas off each other, adding to our contract, but we educated ourselves and we're all competition, but we're all doing the same thing. And we're all just trying to figure it out together. So I think it's really important just, yes, educating yourself online and things like that, but educate yourself with people who are right around you too. Like don't feel, because it's the competition, you can't talk to them. That should be why you want to talk to them. Because they're doing exactly what you're doing in your area and they know what you're going through.
And don't feel like you have to reach out to an expert for help. Like all of these Facebook groups, like not everybody that's commenting in these groups and the local group that you have, like not everybody's an expert and have been doing it for 20 years and whatever, but that doesn't mean that their experiences aren't valuable. And take some things that they say, like hear what they're saying and then maybe go research it again yourself, because some people might really not know what they're talking about. But if it's like a personal experience like that, all of the other people, even if it was just the two of you guys mostly chatting back and forth, the other members in the group, even if they're not writing something, they're reading it and they're going to learn something too. So I don't know where I was going with that, but just period.
Done. No, absolutely. And I always love that people, there's been like posts or reels and it's like people are always watching, but it's true. Like in these Facebook groups, like, people might not be commenting, but your question could inspire someone else and help them with, they had the same question or the same issue that came up. And that girl who had, a horrible experience with the uncle at the wedding, that helped you put it into your contract so that you don't have that bad experience. You know what I mean? So I think we actually do have in our contract too that like, obviously we stop serving if someone's intoxicated, but like if we have a run-in with someone, alcohol is so hard because it's affecting, more than just the event. But we can leave. Like we have 2
unsafe,
warnings. And if after the second warning, like the issue hasn't stopped, like we have in our contract that we can pack up and go. Like obviously I never want to do that, but we're giving you 2 warnings.
If you're feeling unsafe and you have other people that are working for you too, you know, if you and your 1 or 2 other bartenders, if you have the floating bar too, like maybe there's a lot going on and I don't know. You have to look out for other people with your business and not just you, but also you have so much more physical going on too. Like I just have me and my camera, but like you have the trailer. Like if you feel like somebody is unsafe and like leaning on something that they shouldn't be, or like they're like sitting on the tire or like something crazy like that, like, and if they're not listening because they're drunk, they either need to, the bride or whoever coordinator needs to like put them somewhere else. But if you don't feel safe, you should go. Like all of these are things that you wouldn't be thinking about just getting started your first day, but absorbing as much as you possibly can from other people's experiences, you'll feel like a pro on your first day. And you're like, oh, well, if I wonder if this is going to happen, if this is going to happen. Well, don't worry. You're okay because you have a solid contract and you've learned from other people's experiences.
Yeah, it's so true. So just to kind of wrap up, I'm a firm believer that you should be educating yourself throughout your business at all times, whether it's a free podcast that you're listening to, whether it's paying to go to a retreat for your first time, or just doing like an online course that's $17. I really feel like you educating yourself is going to in turn really help in your business.
Yep.
And I think you just should always do it. And leaning on other people is a perfect form of education because, you're putting yourself out there, you're growing yourself as a business owner, but you're also getting feedback from someone who probably was already in that situation.
Yeah.
So I think that's
it. Not everything has to cost money too.
Yeah.
Like keep your eyes open and just absorb everything. It's great to work one-on-one with somebody, and that's a totally valuable experience. Or going to a paid workshop and really like hearing somebody in depth who's an expert, super valuable. But not everything has to cost money, especially if you're just getting started. Everything is valuable. And it's just as you move along, those paid experiences might be more because the people might be more top tier. But learning from somebody who just has a day more experience than you will be valuable, even if it's for free.
I totally agree with that. Like someone one step ahead of you, they don't have to be doing this for 10 years. They could literally be doing this a few months more than you, but they've just had situations where they've learned more maybe or something like that.
Yeah.
Like that's who you need to go to.
Yeah.
You don't need to go to the, $5,000 expert until you're ready and you can afford that. Go to someone who's just like you, but just a little bit ahead of you.
Yeah.
Just one step ahead of you. Love that. Well, thanks for tuning in. We don't have a topic yet for next time, but we love being like spur of the moment.
Yeah. We'll think of it.
We'll think about one, and we can't wait to hear from you.
Yeah. Hope this is valuable.
Cheers.
Bye.